Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we're going to be continuing My Hero Academia Heroes of the Morphing Grid, What If Deku Was a Power Ranger, the Psycho Wars Arc, Part 15. As always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. And also stay tuned as we are close to hitting our next like goal of reaching 4,000 subscribers. That's going to be a big milestone here on the channel, and I'll have a lot in store for that when we reach it. So make sure that you're always up to date on everything that we do here on the channel. But now, as we go into today's story, if you haven't, make sure you check last week's video so you can stay caught up as we go further into the Psycho Wars arc that covers the events of Season 6 of My Hero Academia, where the heroes and villains face off in an epic showdown. As Shigaraki looms closer to getting the power of One for All, how will he be able to contend with the likes of other powerful Ranger enemies, as the Green Psycho Ranger and the Green Dragon Ranger come to blows? For all this and more, stay tuned as we now continue the story. As always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. As Endeavor continued his fight against Shigaraki, now transformed into the Psycho Green Ranger, Deku and the others would be even more worried as more high-end Nomu were starting to escape from the underground, Gran Torino leading the other heroes to keep them at bay. However, among them, a talking Nomu that referred to itself as Goldar moved with vigorous determination. Goldar yelling and screaming for the Rangers to show themselves. For the others, they had no idea how this was happening. All Might, along with Alpha, who were watching from a safe command base on the school campus, were left extremely worried. Alpha especially. There was no way that Goldar should exist. How on earth had the villains gotten away to recreating him? Granted, even if they had a broken morpher given to them by Rita, there was no way that the villains could possibly have gotten through that much data within a broken morpher. Although, this was Rita Repulsa, there was no telling how much information she had stored away, and now it was all for the villains to use as they saw fit. Despite his warnings, Deku and the others knew that they couldn't stay hidden forever, especially as Shigaraki began to target after Eraserhead. Even with the enhancements of his Ranger form and body, he didn't have access to all of his quirks, not as long as the Eraser hero was keeping an eye on him. While Shigaraki would target Eraserhead, Goldar, the Nomu enhanced monster, would continue his rampage, looking to find and destroy the Rangers. With no choice, Bakugo and Deku would jump forward, Deku coming face to face against Shigaraki, while Bakugo would trade blows with the Nomu'd Goldar. After all this time, Jason, think again. You got the wrong guy. Oh? So another Red Ranger? Well, it makes no difference. I will destroy you! Think again. The only thing that's gonna happen today is that I'm gonna blow your ugly face right off the map! Bakugo, using his enhanced grenade launchers, would attack against Goldar. You see, for our Rangers in this universe, they were able to use their weapons or special gear that were enhanced by their Ranger forms. For Bakugo, he had two different weapon modes. First, there was the Gauntlet mode. In his Red Ranger state, his gauntlets would change to a color of red and white, and they had the same function, although 10 times the power. Vice versa, he could also switch from Gauntlet mode to Sword mode, using the classic sword of the Red Ranger. However, this sword was far greater than what you might think. This sword took on the properties of Bakugo's quirk, Explosion, meaning every time the sword made contact with anything, it would cause an explosion, and the harder the hit, the greater the explosion. Bakugo would come face to face against Goldar, while Shigaraki would attempt to hold his own against Deku, as he had now found the vestige of One for All. The two green monstrosities colliding with one another as the sparks would begin to fly. In the meantime, in the mountainous compound, Makia, the giant, was starting to make its move. As it began to awaken from the underground, picking up the likes of the other members of the League of Villains, Dabi, Mr. Compress, Toga, Spinner, as well as picking up Skeptic, the large, monstrous quirk user would begin to make its way towards its master, with Mount Lady trying her best to slow it down. Midnight, along with Kamui Woods and the other pro heroes, would look to try to slow the giant the best ways that they could. However, things were looking dire. As much as they wanted to tell the students to stay back, there were two in particular they were going to have to call. Momo and Melissa getting the news from the intercoms. "Miss Midnight, we're here," Momo would say. "Yes, we're going to need you and Melissa's help on this one. I know that I didn't want you kids to get involved in this, but please lend us your power." "Understood. Melissa?" "Right. It's morphin' time! Saber-toothed tiger! White tiger!" In a flash of white and yellow, the white and yellow rangers would now make their presence known. Melissa grabbing her talking blade, Saba, as they summoned the white tiger Zord. It immediately came to their aid, as Melissa would board inside of it immediately, changing from its white tiger form to its Megazord form. In the meantime, the other students from Class 1A and 1B respectively would all jump inside of the saber-toothed tiger Zord as they began to follow behind the heroes and the giant quirk user, as Momo would have to try to come up with a plan to slow it down. In the meantime, Melissa and Saba, piloting the white tiger Megazord, would accompany Mount Lady, the two giant behemoths now being able to work together to stop Makia. Makia would be surprised by two giants, a giant lady and a giant robot. Dabi would attempt to use his flames against the Megazord, however, it would be pointless. "Damn, I forgot. These annoying rangers and their damn Zords. We don't have anything like that to counter them, do we?" Mr. Compress would try to throw some debris that he had compressed into marbles at the Megazord, although it too would be pointless. Midnight potentially could have gotten the worst of the attack, although thankfully before she could be hit by Mr. Compress, the saber-toothed tiger Zord would block the attack, picking up Midnight in the process. As Midnight made her way to the cockpit, where Momo would be maneuvering, she would thank the student for her assistance, as they now had a way to counter them, although they were going to have to try to figure out a way to slow the giant down. That was when Momo came up with an idea. She could create sedatives, at least powerful enough to be able to tranquilize the giant and to subdue it. As long as they had the Zords, that could work in their favor. Once Melissa had the privy to the plan, all that was left for them to do was to slow down the League of Villains as best they could. Makia would try to fight past them, wanting to get to his master's side as quickly as he could. However, this would be easier said than done. Despite his best efforts, the Megazord was pretty powerful in its own right, and with Mount Lady giving her assistance, and with two giants working better than one, they are having a harder time holding it at bay. The cement hero, Cement Toss, would cause the ground to shake and to be a lot more malleable, slowing down the giant in its movements. The villains would now begin to fear for the worst, as the heroes would start to mount their comeback in an attempt to stop the villains from colluding with one another. In the meantime, within the main city of Hoshu, the heroes would be fighting an uphill battle, trying their best to slow down the Nomu, Shigaraki, and now this monstrous Goldar that Bakugo was battling against. In the meantime, Eraserhead was continuing to do his duty, his best to try to slow down Shigaraki, not wanting the villain to get any closer to his students, the ones that he promised to protect. Ida and Uraraka would also be worried. Even though they were morphed, they were still working to try to get the civilians to safety. They had been given temporary command of the other Megazords, with Todoroki, Bakugo, and Deku knowing that they weren't going to need them for the fight they would be in. With the extra Zord power, they were able to get more civilians to safety at a lot quicker a pace, reducing any of the real-life casualty, and only damage coming were to empty buildings, surprisingly. While that was still a benefit, there were other worries that were on their mind, especially knowing what Shigaraki was truly after, as all of the Rangers, not all of Class 1A, but just the Rangers, were aware of what One for All was, and now they knew without a shadow of a doubt that the successor to All for One was after their friend and his power. In the meantime, Shigaraki continued to make his advancements. However, he was delayed and slowed down by the heroes. I don't have time for any of this. The only thing I want is... Little brother, it's time for you to come home. What? That voice just now. I know that wasn't mine. Master? But why would he? Now it was all starting to make sense. Why he was given this body, this power. It was all for his master's sake, to get his hands on One for All. Shigaraki smirked. Master, you were always an ambitious one, and someone that I have truly come to respect, for how you raised me, for everything you've given me. You will always have my thanks, make no mistake about it. But I am not willing to give control to you, someone who lost to the mere symbol of peace. I will not walk down that same road. What I envision for the world is far greater than what you could ever possibly imagine. I will take One for All, but not because of you and your will. I do what I do for my own sake. With that, the Green Psycho Ranger would unleash a massive amount of power, attempting to fight off against Ryu and all of the other pro heroes, Deku and the others alike, as he continued to target Eraserhead. If he could take him down, he could access his power. He was only able to save a few of them, the quirky racing bullets, but he had one with Eraserhead's name on it. As he shot right at Eraserhead, Deku and the others would try to move in to stop their teacher from being hit, but it was too late. These bullets were far more advanced. If it was allowed to enter into his bloodstream fully, Eraserhead would lose his quirk forever. As it hit his leg, Eraserhead had two choices: to become quirkless or to make a much-needed sacrifice. Without hesitating, as Shinso would yell out for his master to stop, and everyone else trying to, before they had a chance, Eraserhead's leg would be removed from himself as he fell to the ground, as Rocklock and Manuel would try their best to treat the wound. Bakugo, who was fighting against Goldar, would be enraged in this moment. His power manifesting and beginning to rise higher and higher. Out of my way! Bakugo would grab Goldar by both sides of his head. He switched to gauntlet mode before pulling out both of the pins. I've had enough of you! Ground Zero! A large explosion would occur from Bakugo, as nothing would be left of Goldar's head, the brain completely gone. And Deku, as he looked towards Shigaraki, his power would begin to manifest once more as he activated the quirk of the 7th, Float. Catching everyone in midair along with Shigaraki, he would bind him with Black Whip while resting the others down. You, Izuku Midoriya, Tomura Shigaraki! I won't let you hurt my friends or anyone else. This madness, it ends now! Underneath his cracked mask, Shigaraki would smirk as he looked towards Deku. It doesn't end until you all lie dead at my feet. Izuku powered himself up, full cowling 100%. All of his training, everything he had done up until now, he wasn't going to let it go in vain. You know, Shigaraki, I haven't just been sitting around doing nothing. I've met many powerful people and allies. I've trained as hard as I can for this one moment where I beat you. Using Black Whip, Izuku would grab 2 boulders with both sides of his hands. As he raised them into the air, he used the whips like strings of bungee gum, moving them and flailing them around in a particular movement. Now, feel the depths of my anger! Gumu Gumu no Smash! Using the Black Whip, he would smash the boulders into Shigaraki over and over again. In the meantime, he landed on the ground, using his own quirk, Emerald Flame, coating both of his legs in the green flames themselves as he began to spin. Now, Diambalejon, smash! With a left and a right kick, moving repeatedly, smashing towards Shigaraki's face. Rabbit smash! He would kick Shigaraki in the gut, sending him higher and higher into the air. As Izuku would move back down below, as he raised his right hand, coating it in a green flame before creating a green ball. The green ball of fire would spin faster and faster, Shigaraki taking multiple points of damage, not knowing what was going to come next. As Deku would lunge himself into the air, as he screamed towards Shigaraki, ready to finish it. Rasen Smash! The Rasen Smash would collide with Shigaraki, moving him farther from the ground to use his quirk of decay. Bakugo and the others would look to press the advantage. As Todoroki would give them the assistance, he would move them using the heaven-piercing ice wall, with Bakugo shooting them higher with his explosions. Endeavor following close behind, conserving his power and ready to end the fight. After Deku had hit him with the Rasen Smash, Endeavor would wrap his body around Shigaraki as he used his ultimate attack. Prominence Burn! In the explosion of flame, it would seem as though the heroes had finally quelled the madness. However, that was far from the case. Shigaraki was not finished. He was far from finished. One way or another, this world and everything in it, its heroes, it would all be brought to nothing. Shigaraki began to attack wildly, everyone being forced to take cover or to brace themselves for the worst. Izuku was right in the line of sight for Shigaraki as he readied himself to take the power of One for All. However, before he could do so, Izuku found himself being pushed out of the way, almost as if his body moved on its own, without any rhyme or reason. Bakugo would push Izuku to safety at the cost of himself. A piercing strike to his lower abdomen, knocking him out of his ranger form, as Bakugo went crashing down to the ground below. This concludes My Hero Academia Heroes of the Morphing Grid What If Deku Was a Power Ranger, Part 15 of the Psycho Wars arc. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video as we continue Naruto DxD Heroes Return. What if Naruto was in High School DxD Season 4 Part 2 of the Kyoto arc. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.